in our tracks, losing what we can't get back, shaking the foundations of our faith. No matter what's in my way, no matter the battles I face, you are still my God. You're still my rock, my only hope, Lord. You're all I've got. In every valley or mountaintop, I'll say hallelujah. You're still my God. You're still my God. The questions keep us in the fight. The answer's never black or white. We may not know until the other side. But even in this in-between, we fix our eyes on what's unseen. The shadows never overcome the light. No matter what's in my way, I know that you won't ever change. You are still my God. You're still my rock, my only hope.
mistake a few weeks ago when I found out that we were doing this Bible study over The Prodigal God by Timothy Keller. I told David that I was a big Tim Keller fan and that I'd read this book before and I was excited about it. And so a few weeks later, I was sitting down and eating food, and he was like, "Great, your mouth's full. I'm going to ask you to teach for me then." And so that's how I ended up here. But I am a fan of Tim Keller. My dad really likes Tim Keller a lot, and my parents live in Illinois, so it's kind of been our way to connect. He'll send me podcasts or things he's listening to or reading from Timothy Keller, and so that's kind of been our way to connect a little bit. Yes, that's true. I've learned the hard way now. But kind of going into this week, we're going to be talking a lot about the elder brother and kind of this idea of elder brother lostness. And so just so you know a little bit about me, I am a teacher. I teach middle school English at a school in Seymour, and so the King's Academy. And so as a great teacher, at the beginning of class, I'm going to start by asking a question so I don't have to talk as much. But the first question I want to ask, at your table you can discuss this. Do you guys want to move over there? So there's a group of 4 of you. That'd be great. But the first question I want to ask that you can discuss at your table, what does society say about greed, and what does it say about success? I think I have a slide for that. The next slide. But I want you to discuss at your table, what does society say about greed and success? What do they think about it? And go. Okay, I'm going to guess we're coming to the conclusion that greed is bad. I heard that over here, and that success is good. So I actually asked this question to some of my 7th graders the other day. I asked them, what does society say about greed first? And they came to the same conclusion, like, you're not supposed to be greedy, you're not supposed to be selfish. And then I changed the question on them, and I asked them about success. And when we looked at those 2 questions, that you're not supposed to be greedy, you're not supposed to be selfish, but yet society is like, you need to be successful, put yourself first, do anything to win. And so there's still this idea of greed even in success, right? And it made me kind of start to think about how we've been talking about the younger brother and the older brother. The younger brother is chasing after this greed of what he can get using his father's money, but the older brother wants the success of doing what's right and in time getting everything that the father is going to give him, right? And so it was just interesting kind of seeing my middle schooler's perspective on that question and how society kind of jades us to seeing the truth of that a little bit. Yes, it does, yes. And they're both wrong, right? And that's what we've kind of been discussing, so yes. Another thing that I kind of wanted to pull in before we unpack a little bit of the reading that you guys have done or the video that we're going to watch today. Over the weekend, I had the opportunity to go to a graduation ceremony at Johnson University. My little brother's girlfriend graduated, so I went to kind of support her. And at the ceremony, the commencement speech was done by the president of the university, Tommy Smith. And he gave a very different commencement speech than what you would expect. He got up there and he basically told the graduates, people are here to congratulate you and tell you a good job, but I'm not here to tell you that. And so he reminded them of the verse, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, rather in humility value others above yourselves. And so he really kind of pushed the idea that, like, hey, this is the day that's all about you, but at at the same time, like, you're a servant of Christ, and, you know, in this moment, like, make sure you're still, like, turning the glory over to him. And kind of that idea of you're unworthy, but you're not worthless was his point. Is like, you have a purpose to use it, but you're supposed to glorify God, and it's not all about you, which kind of ties in today. We're talking about the elder brother who is all about himself, and he wants other people to see that he's doing all the right things. He's accomplished all these things, and so that's a little bit what we're going to talk about today. So before we answer the next question that I have on the slides, we're just going to watch the video from Tim Keller, and he's going to talk a little bit about elder brother lostness, and kind of going through the chapters that we read a little bit today. So if you will direct your attention to...
So there are two kinds of lostness. That's the reason Jesus put the elder brother in the parable. You can escape God as much through morality and religion as you can escape God through immorality and irreligion. There are a lot of people, there are a lot of Christians with an elder brother type of heart. If in your heart of hearts you say, I try very hard, I try to be obedient, I go to church, I pray, I try to serve Jesus, therefore, God, you owe it to me to answer my prayers, to give me a relatively good life, and to take me to heaven when I die. If that's the language of your heart, then Jesus is your model, Jesus is your example, Jesus is your boss, but he's not your Savior. You're seeking to be your own Savior. And all your morality and all your religion, it's all just a way to get God to give you the things you really want. And they are not God himself. Elder brothers obey to get things from God. And if those things aren't forthcoming, they get very angry. But gospel-believing Christians obey God just to get God, just to resemble him and love him and know him and delight in him.
Okay, so I know that's a short clip, kind of just going back over the idea of the elder brother and the lostness that he presents in this parable. So the next question I want you to discuss at your table is, what does elder brother lostness look like? I took just a short little part from the book that says, however, in this parable, Jesus wants us to discern another more subtle but no less devastating form of lostness. So we look at the younger brother a lot of the time, but it's equally devastating, the lostness that the elder brother presents. So I want you to talk at your table. What do you think are the characteristics of being lost like the elder brother? Yeah, that would be a characteristic, yeah. a little bit, but I was able to hear a couple things that people said, and the first one I heard was jealousy, that idea of becoming angry or bitter, especially if you see someone else's getting something that you think that maybe you deserve. And because I'm an English teacher, I am going to point out the play that they talked about in the text and how that kind of connects. Timothy Keller talks about this play called Amadeus. I don't know if some of you had heard of that play at all before, but basically in the play, you basically have this archetype of the older brother and the younger brother in this play as well. But you have a man named Salieri, and you have Mozart. And Salieri, at the beginning of the play, makes this bargain with God and says, like, I'll do all these good things and I'll try to lead a good life if you will just make me famous as a musician. But later on, his younger brother is doing all the things you're not supposed to do, and yet he becomes even more famous. And Salieri becomes very bitter, so much so that he wants to kill his younger brother. And so there's this idea of, seeing someone maybe lead a life that you don't agree with, and you don't understand why they're getting the attention or the success, but you're doing all the right things. That idea of the elder brother. Was there any other characteristics that you talked about at your table that are elder brother characteristics at all? Anger, jealousy, no joy. Yes. Timothy Keller brings that up a lot, and I think that's kind of like a shocker one sometimes to see that even if we're doing the right things, sometimes we're not doing it with like any joy in our heart to like be following what God is saying to do. So yes, that's another example. Anything else? Yeah, you're independent, you don't need help. That idea of even just like when you come to church and hearing a message and you can go like, well, that's not me, right? I'm good as I am. And I think that's what this parable like does for us. Like I kind of see it as this gift to those of us who often say like, that's not me. It's a gift to help us like actually open our eyes and reflect a little bit and see ourselves realistically, I think. So yeah, that's a good one. There's also, it brought up the idea of God owes you because you have done all these good things, so he owes you different things. And in the book, it brought up an example of a woman who was kind of a missionary. She did all these different things, and then later on in life, she got sick, and she couldn't do a lot of the things that she used to be able to do. And she kind of blamed God because she said, I served you, and yet now I can't do anything anymore, and kind of blamed God a little bit for that. But at the end of that section in the book, it said the key to her improvement was to actually recognize the elder brother mindset within her. So that idea of like, we can't improve until we recognize that is us. Anything else? Characteristics of an elder brother? Okay. I think a big one that, at least for me, stood out to me was superiority. Thinking that you are superior to other people who maybe aren't morally falling in line like you are, or you are someone who tries to be very superior, even if it's like what you do at work, right? Trying to like work your way to the top, or be someone that everyone around says, oh, they always do a good job. You're a people pleaser in some way. For me, that's definitely the case, especially as a teacher. Like, I want to do a good job. Like, I want other people to know that, and so that takes the place of actually, doing it for the joy sometimes as well, in that idea. I also feel like selfishness is one. It's a big one for a characteristic of the elder brother, and kind of that attitude a little bit too. So, all right, next you to talk about at your table is kind of a tough one, but it's looking at yourself if you feel like you have some of those characteristics as an elder brother and seeing like, okay, how does this affect the younger brother when I present some of these characteristics? So the question says, how does the attitude of the older brother make it harder for the younger brother to come home? And that's kind of like a weird question to maybe put yourself in the shoes of, because we often see this story so differently. But how does the attitude of someone like the elder brother who's presenting those characteristics affect the younger brother feeling comfortable enough to come home? I know one of the questions a few weeks ago we asked about was, why are marginalized people not feeling welcome in the church? So if we're presenting these characteristics, how does that affect people like the younger brother who want to come home in a certain way? And then I did put the verse, not the verse, but the quote from the book. It says, "Elder brother lostness brings as much misery and strife into the world as the other kind," which I thought for me was kind of shocking. It's easy to see what the younger brother is doing, but how are we causing misery and strife in the world as an elder brother too? So if you want to talk about that at your tables, go ahead and do that. questions for you to more reflect on individually, that are a little bit more personal, just for you to think through and think about. Earlier, I kind of mentioned that I feel like, at least for me, like this parable is a gift for me to see that like God cares enough to um, show me that He recognizes uh, me as I'm definitely the elder brother type a lot of the time, and I feel like it's a gift because it shows me like, okay, like I do have areas that like I need to work on where my heart isn't right, because it's easy to go to church sometimes and say like, that's not me, like I don't really see like areas that I need to work on, and that sounds like so prideful. And so that's something I feel like this text was like, here you go, this is directly for you. But it's been cool to kind of like walk through this study. And so as you're kind of thinking through these questions, I did want to share just a quick story where this is one of the moments that I feel like I've seen God work the most in my life, at least just this year, where I felt very close to God in this moment. And it's a time where like I messed up, but He was able to like show me that, even though I have grown up and been taught all the right things and I try to do what's right, it's very eye-opening, I think, this story. So over the summer, my husband and I, Kenton and I, went and watched the new Spider-Man movie. It was like an animated Spider-Man movie. But we went and watched it, and on our way back from the theater, we were in Market Square, and a lady came up to us and asked us if we had any money, and I was the only one that had cash on me, and in my purse I had like a 20 and a 5. And for some reason, I just gave her the 5. I didn't give her the 20. I didn't even give everything that I had. And she asked me if that was all I had, and I said that's all I had. And then I got in the car and immediately felt like so guilty on the whole ride home, because I was like, that's not even my money, and why didn't I just give her that? Like, it wasn't going to hurt me. Like $25 isn't going to hurt me. Like, I'll be okay. And I got home and I was like, well, I'll just like, the next time I see someone, I'll just try to give them money or something. And I got in and opened the door, and I went over to feed my cats, and this voice in my head said, you are treating your pets better than you treated that human being. And I just really broke down, and it was something that really got to my heart, where I felt like, okay, like even when I feel like I am sitting down and saying that's not me in church, there are moments where it definitely is, and I felt like God saw me in that moment. And it's weird, but like that's one of the moments this year where I felt like I saw Him like present in my life, if that makes sense. And it was more of a heart thing. It's like, yeah, I gave this person $5, but like I had more to give, and my heart wasn't even in the $5 that I gave her. And so I think that this parable, at least for me, is something where when we're looking and reflecting on ourselves, I think that it can be a gift, even if we are like, man, we don't want to go there, we don't want to consider that that could be us. I think it can be a gift to us to open our eyes and reflect on how we can change. So if you just want to take a minute or two and read through these questions, Roger's going to come up in a minute and sing a couple songs. If you just want to reflect for a minute on which characteristics of elder brother lostness do you relate to more, and how can you recognize and address them in your own life? If you just want to take a minute and think.
push you up just a little bit. I'm going to do a song that you may or may not know, and then we'll get into stuff that you do know. But Maddie asked me to do this, and if I mess it up, I'll just start over. It's been a while since I've done this song, so you know me well. Odds are. This is the chorus. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands and give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God, Jacob. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. We bow our hearts, we bend our knees. Oh Spirit, come make us humble. We turn our eyes from evil things. Oh Lord, we cast down our idols. Give us clean hands, give us pure hearts. And give us clean hands, and give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Give us clean hands, pure hearts, and give us pure hearts. Let us not lift our souls to another. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. Oh God, let us be a generation that seeks your face. Oh God of Jacob. When will the circle be unbroken? By and by, Lord, by and by. There's a bitter home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. When will the circle, come on, be unbroken? By and by, Lord, by and by. There's some better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. And I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. And I saw the light, I saw the light. No more darkness, no more night. Now I'm so happy, no sorrow inside. Praise the Lord, I saw the light. The day that will be when my Jesus I shall see, when I look upon his face, the one who saved me by his grace, as he takes me by the hand and leads me through the promised land. What a day, glorious day that will be. And how great see how great is our God. The name above all names. He is the name above all names. And he is worthy of all praise. And my heart will sing how great is our God. Now, David's not here tonight, so you got to sing it loud, okay? I love you, Lord, and I lift my voice to worship you, oh my soul, rejoice, take joy, my King, in what you hear, and may it be a sweet, sweet sound. May it be a sweet, sweet sound. Oh, may it be a sweet, sweet sound in your ear. And I want to close with just a little bit of a chorus from something that I've been working on, but it's a lesson from my mama, and this is what she told me. Don't forget that Jesus is King. Don't forget, that's where you'll find your freedom. And don't forget, there are things that you don't see, seeds unrevealed, until the harvest season. So go be good, be thankful, and be honest. And always know that the Lord will keep his promise. He won't forget. Lord, we thank you so much for a time in which we can come. Lord, we remember your faithfulness. We remember these lessons that Maddie has shared with us tonight. And God, I'm so grateful for this particular part of your body. Lord, I just know that even in this room tonight, there are different battles. There are fears. And Lord, some of it's just tough. So Lord, I ask for your very best to put your arms around us, to protect us and have the enemy have no influence over us. May your Holy Spirit guide us and direct us. In Jesus' name, amen. I want you to pray for David as he wraps up these vacations, and pray real hard because you're stuck with me preaching on Sunday. And we look forward to seeing you then, okay? Give Maddie a hand. I thought she did a great job. Yeah. All right, have a good night.